My mic's not. Oh, is my mic working? Okay, cool. Sorry, my mic's been glitching. What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Blazers Uprise postgame show, fresh off the All-Star break. Presented by BetOnline. The Blazers lose to the Kings in the start of the Snow Tank, Eric. It's the start of Snow Tank season. The Blazers get off to a 19-4 start in this game without Dame, without Jeremy Grant, without Yusuf Nurkic, without Anthony Simons. 19-4 start. Phenomenal start, and then they get blown out of the water and lose 133-116 against the Kings. Eric, what was this game, man?
Well, it seems to me like as a Blazer fan, we know this quite often, that when you're playing a team that is appearing to not care about winning the game, you come out flat, and the Kings came out absolutely stuck in the mud like they were just going to show up and win this game easily. Had to work a little harder than they probably would have liked, but yeah, ultimately they were just had much more talent on the floor tonight. And, the guys played hard tonight. It's a tough situation with the snow thing, but it was pretty apparent that the Blazers had no intentions of wanting to win this game.
Yeah, rough game. I mean, tanking is cool, I guess. Winning is cool, I guess. We're kind of stuck in the middle, which means that there's no downside, I guess. Anyway, the upside of this post-game show is it's presented by BetOnline. Use that promo code BELIEVE for 50% rewards. The Blazers were 10.5-point underdogs in this game. Everybody was pretty confident that the Kings were the right pick, and you could have gotten a 50% reward bonus along with that. You could be thrilled right now that the Blazers lost. Anyway, shout out to our partners at BetOnline, betonline.ag, where the game starts. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about this post-game show. Then we're going to talk hypotheticals. It's just tough not knowing where to go with these streams at this moment, Eric, because obviously if we're tanking, we're going to talk a lot about the tanking race, and we're going to talk a lot about offseason hypotheticals like we did last year. Last year gave us good practice if that's indeed the route this team is going. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, if Dame is back and Jeremy Grant is back, we could have won this game with both those guys, right? This team got off to a really hot start, 6 for 8 from 3, and you're talking about not having your two best healthy shooters because obviously Anthony Simons is hurt. I mean, this is probably a game if those two guys are healthy. So if they come back because they don't have the excuse of snow next time, then, I mean, I don't know. Are we going to... I could see us winning 3 out of 4, and then we're 500 again, and then we're in the play-in. So I don't really know what direction this team is headed in, but tanking is, I don't know, like a semi-tank is a viable option. I don't think this team is going to go all out, and I saw tweets before this game like, just because they're resting one game doesn't mean they're tanking, but there's a gray area between going for it in terms of trying to make a playoff run and full-out tanking. There's a gray area in between there, and I think this team's in that gray area where they're not going all out to win, but they're not going to sit here and rest Dame the rest of the season. I don't know if they could get away with that.
They'd have to win games like tonight, or they have no business winning. They'd have to have Dame just carry this team on an insane run. I think they're fine if that happens. They're not going to prevent Dame from doing that necessarily, but I think at the same time, they're not going to... obviously, with the trade deadline, you make the team worse, and you bring in these projects that weren't even playing on their respective teams or weren't even getting minutes in rotations on other teams, and you expect this team to take a jump or something. And so I think it was pretty obvious at the trade deadline that they were kind of forcing this to be they're not trying to tank, but they're trying to make it as hard as possible to win. And I don't know if that's the best thing to do to Dame. He didn't seem too upset about it tonight in the interview and stuff, but all indications, it doesn't look like we're going to sign anyone off the buyout market or even go for anyone off the buyout market. We're not tied to anyone from that. So short of us just getting a Will Barton who hasn't even been this good this year, I don't see this team giving Dame a legit shot to make the playoffs anyway. So it's kind of okay, here you go, make the playoffs if you can, but we're not gonna purposely try to make the play-in.
Yeah,
I think that's the right call, but it's kind of tough as a fan to, after we were promised this year it would be different, and and all that kind of stuff. So I get
Yeah.
why people are upset about it.
I can't believe we're here. Dame's
Yeah.
best season ever is tankier, but not really a tankier, but kind of a tankier is what it feels like. I mean, in this game, we'll talk about games still, I guess, until it's like full out tank season and we're trying to lose and we're playing Drew Eubanks at point guard. Until then I guess we'll still talk about games. The Blazers get off to that hot start. They scored 37 in the first, 34 in the third. In the second, they had 20. In the fourth, they had 25. Nasir Little, it was good to see him have a good game. He started and played 34 minutes, most minutes he's played all year. Season high 26 points. Had 4 steals, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, was 10 for 19 from the field, 5 for 9 from 3. So it was good to see him have a good game. Defensively, he had a couple good moments, a couple bad moments. I don't know. I don't want to get into individuals yet, but yeah, I mean, it was good to see him have a good game. That's my biggest takeaway from this game is he had a good game. That was good to see. Otherwise, as far as just the way this team played, I was surprised as to some of the lack of effort from young guys like scratching to be in the league. I don't think this was a game where they played with good effort. At the start of it, obviously holding the Kings to 4 points in the first 5 minutes. Defensively, it was really good, but it's the first game after an All-Star break with a team that's dealing with success for the first time. Seems like the Kings took a little while to kind of wake up in this game, and then once they woke up, they shoot 41% from 3, but only make 14 for 34. They did their damage attacking the rim, getting to the line, 47 for 87 from the field, 54%, attacking the Blazers' lack of size. Kings were sloppy in this game, but still 133 on the scoreboard. They got out and ran. I was kind of surprised. It's not something I'm complaining about with the Blazers not seriously trying to win this game, it seemed like, but I was surprised as to some of the lackadaisical effort on some possessions from some of these younger guys.
Well, I mean, there's 2 reasons for that. The travel situation, they were obviously tired. And 2, we know, and we talked about this before the All-Star break, but Cam Reddish hadn't played in a game since December 3rd. And then you play in a couple games, and then you go to the All-Star break, and you sit out another 10 days or whatever, 9 days. So, that couldn't have been good for him. And then he plays 20 of the 24 minutes in the first half. And for some reason, Chauncey only plays Sharp at 10 minutes in the first half.
I didn't like that, but Sharp was the first guy I noticed. He had back-to-back defensive possessions where he literally did not try guarding the ball. Right, I know one of them was guarding the ball, and it was like, man, we talk about accountability all year. It was too. That's the thing is Sharp lately, before the All-Star break, had been giving much better effort. I was happy with the effort he was giving on the defensive end. There was a couple possessions there in his first stint in this game where I was kind of upset. I wasn't going into this game where I was going to be upset about anything, but it was like, he showed this progress with just his defensive effort level, and then, back-to-back possessions where it was just awful. And it's like, you're stuck in this position as Chauncey where, okay, you want to play the young guy to develop when you have an opportunity for minutes in a game you're going to lose anyway. But that stuff is still unacceptable. You have to set the standards. So I feel like that's maybe why he didn't play him more.
But at the same time, I mean, you have to recognize that. I mean, I don't think benching him, this is the opposite of what I've kind of been saying all year. But I don't think benching him in a game like this helps that. I think getting more reps and letting him, you explain to him what he's doing wrong, and then you go out and see if he fixes it or can adapt in the second half or whatever. So I don't know. In this type of game, I think, especially if we have more of these going forward, the only thing that really matters to me is developing him so he's ahead of where he needs to be for next year. And so if we continue to, bench him or not play him because he's missing a defensive assignment or something, I just feel like he needs the reps right now to learn what he can do and have all that film to study this summer on what he's doing right and what he's doing wrong and the games he's successful at it. What the difference is in those games versus the games where he's missing those assignments and getting blown by and stuff like that. So Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of torn because I feel like this should have been a game where you just let him sink or swim, and then you address it afterwards. You try to fix it during the game, and if it doesn't happen, I think you just have to live with that.
Oh, I was muted. Yeah, I thought maybe the All-Star break would give, some people in chat the opportunity to work on some of their takes. But we're already with it with a comment that says, it's not Sharp's fault we gave up 33. Come on, Lori. Dude, yeah, of course it's not just Sharp's fault, man. But from a young guy like that who had some questionable moments earlier in the season effort-wise and then improved upon them, I wanted to see him come out and just playing hard defensively. And if he got beat off the dribble but, gave good effort, I don't care. I don't care, you know what I mean? But that's the thing I want to see from Sharp. I just want to see him competing on that end, if he's going to be a heavy minutes player going forward, he has to be a guy that just is competitive like every possession. And he certainly, he's 19 years old. He's certainly young enough to do it. It's not like he's sitting here at 35 having to take possessions off. So it was just a little bit disappointing. But there's other guys that have moments like that. It's not just Sharp, but Sharp's the guy I care about most. So that's the thing, Eric, is like for the rest of the season, I'm going to focus more on Shaedon Sharpe. And if he has stretches where his effort isn't as high, I'm going to focus more on that than if there's a stretch where Keon Johnson's effort isn't as high. Because I don't care as much about Keon Johnson. Keon Johnson doesn't matter for this team going forward. Shaedon Sharpe does. Shaedon Sharpe absolutely does. He's the most meaningful piece that played tonight. So I'm going to focus more on what he does good, what he does bad. It's not picking on him. It's just the importance of him.
Yeah, I think I will say that on a couple of those, at least in the first half, it looks so much worse because he gets blown by on the perimeter, and then there's our center, whether that was Watford or Eubanks, is nowhere to be found. There we have no rim protection, no one helps, no one comes off their guy, so it's just a straight. Once they got by Sharp, it was just a line drive to the basket, whereas that happens, almost every possession in an NBA game, but you have, team defense to make up for it or force a pass out, and you can recover and stuff like that. So, unfortunately, when you get blown by on the perimeter and you absolutely have no one in position to help or rim protect, it just magnifies some of those things. But
yeah, absolutely.
A little bit could have been too. I mean, the effort thing, it was. I'm sorry, there's no other way to sugarcoat this. It was absolutely despicable that Sharp did not start in this game.
Yes.
And that I felt like you were saying, he was showing more consistency on defense. He was showing that effort before the All-Star break. He skips the dunk contest to purposely work on his game and be ready for the second half of the season. We have 6 players out with injury, and then he gets there were even reports 10 minutes before they announced the starters that he was going to start, right?
Yeah.
And then they come out and they say they're going to start Ryan Arcidiacono, who's not even going to be on the team.
I don't even know how to say that word that Cotter and Spog were calling him. But yeah, long-ass name Arcidiacono, who doesn't matter, is playing almost 34 minutes. Sharp's playing 22. I don't like that.
To me, that's not... I'm not going to sulk, it's still an NBA game, but if I'm Sharp, it's kind of understandable to be what the heck, Chauncey? What more do I have to do to get this? And he started earlier in the year when we had injuries, does well, and then Dame comes back and then gets hurt again, and then all of a sudden we're starting Justice Winslow instead of him, and that's when he started to struggle, And so to me, I don't know, with a young guy like that, he was showing a lot of things effort-wise on defense. I think you reward him, and it sends a bad message to me to not start him in this situation. And then not only that, but then you only play him 10 minutes while you're playing someone like Cam Reddish, who might not even be on the team next year, 20 minutes in the first half. I don't know. I'm really starting to lose faith in Chauncey and this organization as a whole in terms of that kind of stuff.
Just doesn't make sense because he's giving Shaedon a consistent opportunity all year long, even when he struggled, right? And then there's been times where he started Shaedon earlier in the season when we're still trying to win games. Now a game like this, and it's like, okay, we might be trending towards tanking and development, and then he doesn't start? It doesn't make any sense. That's the opposite of the way it should be. If we're trending towards potentially tanking and we're going into this game resting Damian Lillard and Jeremy Grant off of an all-star break when we have 2 days of rest after this, and we're resting those guys, then that's when you play Shaedon Sharpe 35 minutes no matter what. So it didn't, it didn't make sense not starting him. It should have been something where, you start him, and if his effort level wasn't like fully there, then okay, you sub him out. But then that's early enough where you sub him back in, he still can play, 14 minutes, 15 minutes in the first half, and you still get your point across, right? That didn't make any sense. I'm not happy about that whatsoever. I like that Nas got a start. I think in a game like this, they should be starting Sharpe and Nas, and then one of Matisse and Reddish. One of those two, and then, because I guess you got to start Arcidiacono because you need a point guard in the game. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, honestly, I'd kind of rather in a game like this not start Arcidiacono, start Sharpe, and then start Watford over Eubanks and let Watford bring the ball up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just let him be a point center, and then just play off of that. And at times, challenge Shaedon to bring the ball up and initiate, right? And there's times where they let him bring the ball up, challenge Cam Reddish to bring the ball up, challenge Nas to bring the ball up, just put these guys in positions they're not normally in and just see how they handle it. And maybe it's something that cultivates growth. Instead, you're playing a veteran trash, by NBA standards, point guard and Arcidiacono, who doesn't matter for this team's future, and you're playing him 34 minutes. For what? You knew that even after a 19-4 start, it still felt like this team wasn't going to win this game, and they still lost by 17 anyway. It was a 27-point swing with Arcidiacono playing 34 minutes. What did those 34 minutes get you? So that's the thing, is this organization needs to have priorities, and they need to like Shaedon Sharpe's development should be priority number 1 below going on a run or tanking, right? If the direction isn't to fully go for it, which this game it wasn't to fully go for it, then Shaedon Sharpe's development needs to be priority number 1. Finding consistency with Nasir Little should probably be priority number 2.
Yep, and the other thing is too, I mean, even if Matisse is in the plans for next year, if you don't know what you have in him, like he can't shoot, like he's going to be an inconsistent shooter. He's going to provide defense, but like he's only really useful on in a situation where he's playing with other good players and you're counting on him to lead the defense. Like if you're in a tanking situation like tonight or you're giving up a game, it does playing Matisse is completely pointless in a game like this. So you're not going to learn anything about whether we're going to keep him or not when he's playing with a bunch of bench guys that's not here this year, right? Or not going to be here next year. So I don't understand why you would start Matisse over him. Sit Matisse out or don't bring him in with the bench or something, because what does it matter if he's playing with the bench or the starters in this game, because they're all pretty much bench players.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. So, since we brought up Reddish, I feel like we should talk about him a little bit. He goes 7 for 18, 3 for 11 from 3, 7 for 7 from the free throw line, 4 assists, 5 turnovers, couple of steals. If we end up in a situation where we are truly tanking, he's going to have some games where he looks good. And I'm just worried that those games where he looks good against probably subpar opponents defensively are going to inflate his value, and this organization is either going to end up too high on him or, he just walks for nothing. Good old ESPN. Here's the problems I have with Reddish, and I tweeted this out. And this has basically kind of been the book on him, but it's why his game, I don't think, translated well from high school to the NBA. It's why he was a top high school prospect and didn't play well in college and has not played well in the NBA. He'll have a flash here and there, but does he have an above average NBA skill other than making free throws right now? Something that you'd trust consistently?
No, not really, but I mean, he's not a number 1 either. He's never going to be a number 1, so Yeah,
But
that's also tough when you're playing him in that way, you know?
the problem is he can't be a spot-up shooter. Because
Right.
here's the problem with his shooting. He needs so much time in order to knock down threes. When he's able to set his feet and like catch the ball and he has some time to shoot, he's a solid shooter, probably a good shooter. There's so many threes where it's like he has time to get a shot off, but he can't just like comfortably take his time in terms of setting his feet and loading up and dipping the ball and then getting into his shot. And when he has to rush that whole process at all, he doesn't make threes. Mm-hmm. Like he's off balance a lot. Like he needs way too much time in order to get balance and get his feet set. And he's like in high school, you're able to knock down threes because the pace is just so slow, right? In the NBA, where guys are closing out super, super fast, you don't have the time in order to take the time that he needs. His shot just is not good enough and quick enough in order to deal with the speed of NBA defenders flying out at him. So that's my problem with his three-point shot. Because you look at it, and if he just shoots around, like his form looks good, it's smooth, and he looks like he should be a good... You don't think so? What don't you like about his form?
He often rushes his shot. He short arms it. He doesn't follow through. At this form, he just stops and like right in the middle of his shot, he just stops his.
Well, I think that has to do with like not being able to take his time in the NBA shooting threes.
And his feet are often like together, and not. He doesn't have like a strong base when he shoots either, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, I think that kind of goes in with what I'm saying. Like when he has all the time in the world, those aren't really problems.
I mean, he missed some wide open threes tonight.
Yeah, he did.
Included two on the same play.
He did. Like he's still gonna miss wide open threes. But yeah. I've noticed he seems a lot more off. And like there's situations where it seems like he's rushing his 3-point shot where other wings, they're comfortably shooting them. Mm-hmm. So that's a problem. And when you get into the playoffs where guys fly around, that's going to be even worse. Mm-hmm. Okay, but then the other problem with him when he's not shooting threes offensively is like when he drives, he struggles handling physicality, and then he's not, and this is just kind of basically going off my tweet, he's not explosive enough, doesn't have good enough body control or strength to finish in traffic. And those two problems will manifest itself in the playoffs. They'll be even more glaring in the playoffs where guys play more physical, where guys help, rotate harder, right? Mm-hmm. You have, how many times are you able to get open layups in the playoffs? Not as much as you do in the regular season because guys are flying around more. So that's really the problem with him offensively is he's just like, his ideal role is a 3-and-D guy, but the shooting is a problem. And then there's too many times where he attacks and gets himself into trouble in traffic. A lot of his turnovers today were those situations, or like he struggles handling the physicality off the dribble. And like he goes 7 for 18 today, but I notice people, they get hyped up when he's like able to attack a closeout and has an open lane and goes and finishes like a semi-contested layup. But that's not what I'm looking for from him. Like, yes, he can finish layups. Yes, he can knock down threes at times. Yes, he can do certain things at times. But like, I'm looking at those specific weaknesses and I want to see those specific things improve, because if they don't, he's not a guy that helps you win. And people will sit here and say, oh, he's showing flashes. I want to see flashes in regards to those specific situations. Dealing with physical defense, finishing in traffic, knocking down threes where he doesn't have all the time in the world to shoot. That's what I want to see improvement on.
Yeah, I think with Reddish, like people think if he develops, he's the answer at the 3 or whatever long term. To me, I think he's best suited as like someone who comes off the bench and can sometimes, if he's got it going that night, can he scored over 20 tonight. He can, provide some scoring for the bench and maybe, get in the passing lanes, get a few steals, stuff like that. But I don't think he's ever going to be like the perfect 3-and-D player like you. He just has too many inconsistencies. But I have a question. So we saw in the first half, Jabari Walker catch a ball in the corner, attack a closeout, and have a nice dump-off pass to Drew Eubanks.
Yeah.
For a dunk or a lay-in. I think it was a dunk. So, like, what does Cam do that for the people that like Cam, what does he do that Jabari can't do at this stage of his career? Like, is there something? Because like to me, Jabari has, much more sound fundamentals in terms of shooting mechanics, defensive positioning, um, moving laterally. I think is pretty even, but I don't know. I feel like Jabari is just a little bit smarter of a player. So like, I don't know. I'd almost think that. I mean, neither of them are really good finishers at the rim yet, but yeah, I wonder.
Yeah,
But like,
Jabari's.
people say they like Cam's handle, like Mike says, and YYC says you could put up points, I guess. But like Jabari was like that in college. Like it's not like he's that far removed from being that kind of scorer.
Yeah, I mean, like the problem is Cam just doesn't have enough burst with his handle, and he doesn't make the right reads a lot of times. Like in this game, there was multiple turnovers where he's just driving into traffic and just like seems like he doesn't see anybody else on the floor, and he's never been a good passer. He's never been a good passer. Like, that's just kind of the problem with Cam. It's like, okay, you can look nice handling the ball on the perimeter, and people will see that and be like, oh, look, see, he has potential. If you could just, hone that in, he could be a really good shot creator. But you got to be able to read the defense. And it's like, it's not like he's a rookie. If he's a rookie, I understand. Shane Sharp makes some of the mistakes driving, not reading the defense. Okay, I understand. He's a 19-year-old rookie. That's what you hope develops, right? Like Anthony Simons, he's in year 5. He's gotten so much better at reading the defense when he drives. The problem is Cam Reddish, a lot of times, still this year, last year, is making rookie mistakes when he drives. So that's the thing. It's like, yes, a guy can have a nice handle, but it has to result in something good on the floor. And the problem is he doesn't finish well in traffic. He doesn't consistently make the right read. Not a good passer. Like, so what is it resulting in?
Well, you mentioned Anthony, but I mean, it was last year, his 4th year. This is Cam's 4th year where Anthony even started to show signs of being able to do that. His first 3 years, he couldn't drive at all, really. And he was really inconsistent finishing around the hoop. So I don't know, if you get in the right situation where you're getting the right coaching and development, I think you can, turn someone like him who seemingly can get to the free throw line. And that's one thing you could maybe exploit is instead of when you get into those situations trying to do crazy things, just go take it strong at the defense and force the refs to make a call or whatever. So he could be a foul merchant maybe. That's something you could expand on. But I do think he hasn't really had the opportunity to be like that guy who drives to the basket that often. So it's still fairly new to him. So I would give him a little bit of time. I don't think it's like completely lost that he could figure it out. But yeah, I mean, I guess that's what these last 23 games after tonight are going to be, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like, obviously he's going to get a chance. It's just, I don't know, man.
It's only his 4th game in this role. Like,
yeah, I'm just like kind of past the point of taking these chances on these high lottery picks with the thoughts that we're going to fix them and then we never do, So people are like, there's a comment in chat saying that I've already made up my mind. Yeah, I've already made up my mind on Cam Reddish, but it's just like this has been the book on him and it's still the book. Like I need to see consistent change. And people get excited about a flash here or there, but we're talking about a guy who's going to be a restricted free agent this offseason. He's a free agent. He's off his rookie contract. So at that point, it's like you need to see more than flashes. This is basically what my point's always been. Because basically, here's what it was in the past. When we had Nick Stauskas and Mario Hezonja, who were top 10 picks, anytime they ever did anything good or had a remotely solid game, it would be like, oh, there's those flashes. That's why they were a high pick. If we can just, make those flashes consistent, then they'll be a really good player and show why they were drafted that high. I'm just past that because it didn't work out with Stauskas. It didn't work out with Hezonja. When we had both those guys, I was on record of being basically a doomer on them and too negative on them. They just weren't consistently good enough. And that's just the way, it was. So I'm not going to sit here and try and convince myself that I think he's good when I don't think he's good.
I think one of the reasons why Cam gets some people excited is just, we haven't had that kind of, small forward who has like small forward size. So they I think people want that to work out so bad.
Yeah.
But like I think this is where I'm at with that is like I mentioned with Anthony Simons, he didn't start being a respectable driver until last year, but he's been a 40% 3-point shooter in the previous years, even if he wasn't a driver. So even if you don't have that repertoire, like you still have a valuable skill in shooting threes. Whereas Cam right now, he's very inconsistent, can't really hit threes at a good enough clip. And then he, it struggles on finishing around the rim as well. So like it becomes a situation like, well, you have to be, at some point you have to be at least above average at one of those two things, I think, in order to see the floor. And then I don't think his defense is good enough to make up for either of those not working out long term. So if he doesn't figure one of those two things out, I don't think he's a good enough defender. Like Matisse is the opposite of that. I think he's good enough defensively to where you can maybe put up with some of his struggles shooting and just being non-existent on offense at times. But I don't think Cam is there in any of the three aspects, shooting, driving, or defense, that we need him to be an answer past this little 23 game stretch.
Yeah, I just think for some people, I think the bar's been lowered too much because of how much we've struggled in the past few years, and now it's just they're looking for anything positive in anybody we bring in. Right. And I can't blame him. Like, I get it. I would love for Cam to work out. He looks like a small forward. You know what I mean? So, yeah, sometimes he does things where it's like, ooh, look at that, from a guy who's 6'8" or whatever he is. Yeah, I understand why people want him to work out and will view things from an optimistic lens with him. It's just, is he going to be a guy in the next year or two where what he brings to the table is really hard to replace out there, just a basic free agent signing or a basic trade?
Well, this is where I'll say the people who say draft picks can't help us, right? Like, do you like Cam Reddish then? Because, I mean, someone I like in the draft, Taylor Hendricks.
Yep.
Has better size. He's longer. I would trust him to be a more consistent 3-point shooter and finisher around the basket and better defender from day one than Cam Reddish is right now. Yeah. So, like, that is just a situation to me. Like, yes, I'm hoping Cam works out and he's really good, but I think, like, there's going to be opportunities to find someone who will be good without having to hope that these flashes become like an actual consistent skill. And so that's where I'm excited about this summer, more so than Cam or Matisse or any of those players. And that's why I was so down on the trade deadline, because I feel like with the 2 first-round picks, if we end up getting both of them, I feel like there is a possibility to get players that can do exactly what we want Reddish to do without having to give up anything in a trade or anything like that. So, I do feel like those opportunities are going to be there this summer. So I don't think we even really need to rely on Cam Reddish. Now, if he develops, then we can re-sign him for cheap, and that's all good. I'm all for that too. But I do think we need to. I don't think we can just go into next season with him hoping to be the small forward or whatever, starting small forward.
Yeah,
I think that'd be crazy.
Absolutely. I mean, I think right now, assuming we don't do anything crazy with the picks, we have 8 rotation players set for next year, and that would be Dame, Ant, Sharp, Grant, Nurkic, Nasir Little, and then those 2 draft picks. That Knicks pick being 20, 21, 22, I think you can bank on potentially getting a rotation player next year with that pick.
In this draft, I think so too.
Yeah, I mean, like, look at what Walker Kessler's doing. He was drafted 21st overall. You know what I mean? And this is supposedly a deeper draft. Like, there's going to be upside picks there, which wouldn't be instant rotation players at 21 or 22, but there's also going to be guys where you'd be pretty confident in them being able to come in and at least give you some spot minutes, be a 9th guy in a rotation, I feel like, with how deep this draft is. So that's 8 guys without even counting a potential MLE signing. I don't view Thibault or Reddish or anyone that came off the bench today, Keon, other than Sharp, obviously. I don't view Keon, Trendon as guys that we're going to need to step up and be in the rotation next year. I think there's a solid chance we let both Cam Reddish and Matisse Thybulle walk. Maybe not both, but one of them. I just don't know what the plan is with those guys. So those are the two guys I'm going to be talking about the most. Is Thybulle and Reddish, because they're free agents. I'm going to talk a lot more about those guys than Archie Diacono the rest of the year. I don't care what Archie Diacono does. I don't care what he did in his 34 minutes.
Mm-hmm. I think they do view Thibault as someone that is part of their plans long term. I don't know what's going to happen this summer, obviously, but I do think I would be surprised if they didn't retain him. But
I like him. I like him as a 10th man, Eric. Yeah. Like a fringe rotation player, just like he was in Philadelphia.
I have a question for those who really like Reddish, though. So they're going to be stuck in this situation where his qualifying offer is a little over $8 million. So do you offer him the qualifying offer so you can match any contracts? And would you be fine with him accepting that $8 million? I think it's like 8.1 or 8.2 million. Mm-hmm. Or do you not do that and you still have his bird rights? So maybe you can sign him to a 2-year, $10-12 million contract. But that's going to be really hard because then he could just walk and go to whatever team. So that's what's tough with Reddish. It's either he's going to outperform that if he ends up showing these flashes consistently, he's going to maybe get a better contract than that, especially with the way the cap is, and he's still going to be pretty young. I don't know. I just, it's going to be tough to know what to do with him. But those thinking we're going to sign him for like $4 million a season or $5 million a season, I don't think that's even really realistic. Just thinking about how his contract pans out.
We gave Nas $7 million a year and thought it was a steal, and Nas at this point is better, but I would expect, I don't know. Free agency is going to be weird this year, man. The thing is with Reddish, we had a lot of people in chat say that he was good and we were wrong on him, and so I'm going to hold him to the standard that the people that argued with us on him said that we should hold him to, in terms of him being a guy that can come in and help this team, right? But the problem is those same people are now saying we're holding him to too high of a standard. Mm. That's the part that I don't get, is I wasn't super high on him coming in, but a lot of people were. Okay, well, let's see if he lives up to that standard. And then when he doesn't, in my opinion, you
gotta give him time.
Yeah, it's all that stuff. So it's like, which is it? It's not consistent.
And that's the problem. It's because we got asked when that trade happened, is this similar to the Nurkic trade, the Plumlee for Nurkic in a first? Here's the difference. Cam Reddish is only around at the time of the trade for 30 games or whatever it was. Or less than 30 games, like 27, 28 games. So the problem is we don't have him under contract next year. So if you would have gotten, just for example, someone we could have had at the trade deadline, Sadiq Bey, and he's struggling, you still have a whole summer to go through that with him, right? You still have a whole summer to get him with your coaches, get him in the training facility, work on his game and see if he's the answer. You have a whole over a year to figure that out. With Cam, you only have 20 some games. It's too little of time to just be okay, he's definitely the guy, or he definitely isn't. So whether you like it or not, I just feel unfortunately it's just not. It's not going to be answered this year, and then we're going to have to make a decision based on whether we think that answer is yes or no, not whether it is yes or no. And that I don't like to be put in those situations.
Yep. Let me think of Dono. A little late on thinking the Dono. Sorry, a little rusty. Haven't streamed in a week, and it's kind of weird being back. A little need to knock off the rust. Slick Mode with the $5 dono. Thank you, Slick Mode. Says, salute to the Uprise. I feel like Billups needed this game to figure out his rotation. Thank you, Slick Mode. Appreciate it. Billups hasn't been able to figure out his rotation all season long. He's either overplayed guys or, played the wrong combinations of lineups, and now in a game like this plays Archie Pelaligo 34 minutes and Shaden Sharp gets 22.
All right, so...
And there was a tweet, Eric, that we need to talk
about. Okay, yeah, go ahead and read the tweet, and then this kind of ties into it, so I want to address a comment in chat.
So Chad Doing, a.k.a. at Chad in Rip City, from Rip City Radio 620, tweeted out, with 24 games remaining, I am all about the Blazers doing whatever is necessary to increase their odds to land Wembanyama or a top 4 pick. Understandable opinion, okay? Yep. One Damian Lillard quote tweeted it and said, no way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so Jesse Innocent in chat, who earlier in this chat was saying he wants us to go back and give him credit for being the one that wanted Cam Reddish at the trade deadline and really likes Cam Reddish a lot and has been talking about Cam Reddish a lot, then says the irony is that Dame's loyalty is what is going to keep us middle ground for the next decade plus. Love the guy, but can't deny it. Okay, I'm just going to put this bluntly. The reason why we're in the middle ground is because we keep trading for players like Cam Reddish instead of getting him an actual player that is actually good at basketball that we don't have to hope can someday become good at basketball. So it's not Dame's fault for being here and us continually to kick the can down the road and never actually dedicating our front office and our ownership to going all in and getting Dame that help he needs so he isn't putting up incredible numbers, 32 points per game, and we still are under 500. It's not his fault that we're stuck in that middle ground and this front office and ownership refuses to get this guy help and actual players on the team. So we need someone who is going to do that. And until that happens, or if it never happens, I think it's crazy to blame a guy doing everything he can. And I don't blame Dame for saying he's not going to tank. We knew that was going to be the situation. Yeah. We knew he wasn't going to sit out. We know he thinks no matter how many games are left in the season, no matter how hard it's going to be, no matter how many games back they are, he thinks he can lead this team to there, and that's fine. But it's not his fault that this ownership goes cheap every single time, including this last deadline, including the last trade deadline, including this summer, and refuses to trade or do what it takes to put the money where your team needs to be. Every team that's good goes into somewhat of a financial decision where they have to pay to be good. And the Blazers just quite frankly are not willing to do that. And they're kind of stuck in this situation where they haven't been good enough to do that, yet they haven't been bad enough to completely write it off either. So it's just a weird time. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you're spitting facts. It's just funny how we always surround Dame with these mediocre players who are out of the league right after we have them, and he's
it's
the problem.
Same person though that wanted the mediocre player that's now blaming Dame for.
I don't understand that. He's gonna have to explain that one a little better because I don't understand how.
We literally gave up Josh Hart, who's a quality rotation player on a good team, for a Project Cam Reddish, and we expect Dame this team to not be middling. I don't understand that. Someone explain that to me.
Yeah.
And that's why Tori and I are mad every freaking time we have a stream, a trade deadline or the draft, or you know what I mean? That's why we're mad, because we know these news. When we signed Gary Payton, we knew how much that would hamper us from going all in. We literally couldn't even have traded for Kevin Durant if he said, I would only play for the Blazers last summer. We couldn't have traded for him because of our contract situation and getting hard capped and stuff like that. So this isn't something that we're like we're not trying to like blame anyone, but I don't know how you put that on Dame, dude. Like that's to me that's insane. That guy has like done everything possible for this franchise.
Yeah.
As Fafana Tom says, we replaced LaMarcus Aldridge with Al-Farouq Aminu. That's like that was you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Honestly, that's why I needed, we didn't stream on Monday. I was planning on streaming on Monday on the second channel, but it was nice to just have an entire week off, Eric, so I could just reset mentally, because this is why we've been frustrated. And it almost like gets to the point where it's so constant and it's so repetitive. It's almost hard to explain. It's hard to even talk about. Like, that's exactly why it's frustrating, man. It's just, it gets frustrating to take on all these projects and say, guys, I've paid attention to this guy for years by paying attention to the rest of the NBA. This guy isn't good. And then everybody's like, you're such a doomer. Why are you so negative? You're always so negative. And then they don't pan out. And it's like, guys, I tried to tell you this guy wasn't that good, and you were getting on me for being too negative. And it happens over and over and over again. Like, it was that way with, Justice Winslow. He's just not that good of an NBA player, right? Are we talking about him in our future plans? No. Right? Nick Stauskas back in the day. Evan Turner when we signed him. Evan Turner might be the best of the bunch I'm going to name, which is kind of the point, which is sad. Evan Turner back in the day.
He wasn't like a cheap flyer. We actually overpaid for him, which was dumb, but
yeah. I mean, that was the problem. But I questioned the Gary Payton II signing and got heat for that. Nick Stauskas, Mara Hazonia, like, I don't sit here trying to be negative on guys we bring in. I sit here and say a bunch of guys that I would like to take a chance on for specific reasons. Normally I have reasons, and I try and come up with reasons for that. It just gets frustrating. We always take on these project guys and get told about how they're going to work out. And it's like, why is this time any different with this guy? This is what this organization always does. And then we get heat for being too negative. But I think we have a pretty good track record for the most part. So, if Cam Reddish is the guy that all of a sudden turns into some phenomenal starting three, then okay, I'll take the L on that one. More than happy to. It just gets tiresome. So it was good to have a break, honestly.
Yep.
But as far as Dame goes, Dame's going to want to win. That's kind of the problem. That's why we haven't brought it up as like a legitimate possibility, because I mean, you can't just sit him the rest of the season if he doesn't want to sit. I don't think the NBA would like that. I don't know what they could do against that. Can't. What?
No, we can't.
Yeah,
unfortunately, we can't. Like, we got lucky tonight with that excuse, but
you're gonna have to try and find ways like that, like the snow.
The only way, like, you full out tank is if something flares up on Dame and he ends up missing a couple games, and then you end up just being like, dude, there's not enough games left. Like, I know you want to go for it, but there's not enough games.
Yeah. So, the thing I worry about, Eric, is the front office and ownership not being on the same page with Dame, and Dame figuring out that he's been tricked. Mm-hmm. Like, this front office going after guys who they know aren't really going to help the team, but they're saying to Dame, like, yeah, I want to take a chance on this guy. I know you're cool with Matisse Thybulle. Obviously, we need somebody to replace GP2 defensively, so we're going to bring him in, think that he can replace what GP2 was supposed to be for us. But in the back of their heads, internally, it's like, oh, yeah, we're going to not rush Grant back, not rush Ant back, and we're going to have the medical staff say that they're not ready to go until a certain point, and we're bringing in guys that we don't think are going to really help us with a push. That's the one thing I worry about. You don't want ownership in the front office not being on the same page with your best player, especially when it's Damian Lillard, who's shown this organization the most loyalty you could ever expect from a player. So that's the one thing that worries me, is if this front office and ownership wants to go for a tank, but they're not telling Dame that, and behind the scenes they're going to try and tinker around and make this team lose a bunch of games when Dame is out there busting his ass.
I think the important thing is the follow-up to that, though, because here's the deal. If we tanked last year, right? Mm-hmm. And it seemed like, Dame ended up being okay with Sharp, and he was actually happy with that, wanted us to take Sharp, did not want us to pay the price it took to get OG. He was fully on board with not doing that once he realized how much it cost.
Yeah.
But then the team tells him, oh, so at the trade deadline, we'll definitely go all in, right? And then the trade deadline comes up and they don't, right? So my worry now is that they're telling him, like, okay, like, we're not going to necessarily tank, but we're also not going to just say we're fine with making the playoffs. So, like, I hope they're honest with them about that. Like, if you drag us to the playoff, go ahead, dude. like that's fine. But we're also not going to, like, get you a better player or overpay for someone at the deadline. But we will do it this summer. If they keep telling him they're going to do it next time, but they don't ever have the intent of making that move or waiting only if a move that makes sense, that is like a no-brainer, like the Jeremy Grant one, where you can still stay under the tax, you don't have to give up a bunch of stuff, and you can still like improve your team. That's like what we were talking about on the stream earlier today, like in a weird hypothetical where we got like the number 2 pick and Toronto was like number 7 and we traded back and got OG and we still got like a number 7. So like the people who like to go for the draft, like say Mike Schmitz or whatever, was still happy because he could pick someone at 7, but we also got OG who helps our starting lineup and we can win now and all this stuff. So like short of a trade like that happening, my worry is that they keep promising Dame just like they keep telling this fan base that they're going to, don't worry, that all-in move is coming, but it's never actually going to come if it's at the expense of going deep into the tax. And if you're not willing to go in the tax for the all-in move, it's not really an all-in move, and you're not really willing to do that. So if they're telling Dame they're willing to do that, and ultimately they are not willing to do that, that's where I think it's BS. I don't think it's necessarily bad for them to say, dude, we don't think it's best for our team to win games, but go ahead, dude, if you want to, but we're not going to stand in your way necessarily, but we're not also going to give you the best opportunity to do it.
I just don't understand the fans that keep buying it, though.
Yeah.
Like I'm not saying that it won't happen. I'm not saying that an all-in move, there's no chance it ever happens, right? Like, I brought up the idea, like, if things go south in Philadelphia and Harden leaves, maybe you can make a play for Joel Embiid. Hopefully, Jody would be willing to pay the tax, and then you're talking about a package around probably Sharp, Ant, and picks, which, you know, we got probably a lottery pick and a pick between 20 and 22, and then, you know, we unprotect our Chicago pick. We have 3 future firsts we can trade. So that's 5 firsts, 2 in a loaded draft this year, plus Ant and Sharp. I mean, that's probably a package that wins Joel Embiid, right? So it's not like they don't have the potential assets to make the all-in move. It's just the questions about the ownership, and then the questions about who becomes available, right? And then, you know, then the willingness that this team and organization, you know, of course there is a team that could beat out our package, and then we're sitting here like, oh, wow, we didn't land them, what now? Just like we were at the trade deadline when it was like, oh, wow, we didn't land Jared Vanderbilt, what do we do now? So I just, until it happens, I can't have faith in it coming, because that's basically what we've been pitched for the longest time, is that at some point we're going to go all in, and we haven't done it. So it's been wait till the offseason, wait till the trade deadline, wait till the offseason, wait till the trade deadline. It's just like, when it's happened so many times, why is this time going to be different? I don't know. I don't know why this time's going to be different. So I'm not going to sit here putting faith in it's going to happen. And there's just so many fans out there that are like, just wait. He has a master plan. And it's like, you were saying this thing last year. So are we in a, you know, and you were saying wait until the offseason last year after the trade deadline. Eric Bledsoe's contract's going to be a good expiring to help make things happen and help us improve the team a ton. And
we hard cap ourselves so we can't even use it.
Yeah. And then we cut him and have his dead money on the books. But then it was after the offseason, wait till this trade deadline. Well, it's the same thing that they've been preaching Dame. I just, you know, some people still have hope. It's hard.
For everyone who's saying if we don't do an all-in move, though, Dame's going to ask out eventually. Here's the deal, though. An all-in move is almost certainly going to cost us both Simons and Nurk, if not, you know, one of them at least, if not both of them, depending on who that contract is coming back. Dame doesn't want to trade those guys. Like, he would rather lose with those guys than doing that. So this is the other problem is their all-in move, in my opinion, they keep setting it up to add to those guys, being Simons and Dame. Cronin even said it after the trade deadline that every move he makes is based around the best fit for Dame and Ant. He didn't say just Dame. He said Dame and Anthony. So the thing is, Dame does not want to trade Anthony. He does not want to trade him. Like, Dame loves Anthony Simons, and he wants to win with him here, and he thinks he can. So if they go in the season next year with Anthony and Nurk, Dame's not going to be saying, oh, they didn't do anything. Like, he still thinks they can win. But, like, the front office has set up this situation where if we do an all-in move, we have to trade part of our core to get that player. Whereas other teams trade, like Cleveland, for example. They got Donovan Mitchell without trading Garland, Mobley, or Allen. Like, that's the kind of franchise all-in move you have to make to make yourself a contender. Yeah. And we don't have the contracts to match we talked about this earlier today, but we don't have the contracts to match to go all in and improve our core. We have to basically just change our core to do that. It could work out still. You could find the right piece. Obviously, Embiid and Dame would be an amazing duo. So, like, if you make that work, no matter who you have to give up, you're still going to be a great team and a contender. But, like, that makes it that much harder to make an all-in move if that happens.
Do you think, like, just in terms of just asset value, we'd have to give up both Ant and Sharp in that trade anyway, regardless of matching salary for Embiid?
In my opinion, yeah. The conversation starts with both of them.
Yeah. Is there a potential target that might become available this offseason where we wouldn't necessarily have to include Ant in the package in terms of asset value, but would have to match salary?
Well, someone that was mentioned is, like, I don't really necessarily want this player, but if Paul George became available, he makes over $40 million, so you pretty much, I mean, right there, you have to include Ant pretty much, right? Unless we're like sign and trading Jeremy or something. I don't know.
I mean, Nas plus Sharp is like what, 13 mil plus Nurk?
15, I think, next year.
Or is it 15 mil combined for those two, and Nurk's like a 17. Little bit more than that, so that's like 31 mil. You could maybe get there if you include Keon and Jabari and Trendon.
Or you pick up Knox's option, but you might have to decide before this point too. I don't know.
Yeah. So, like, you could maybe piecemeal a bunch of players together, but it's really hard to make those trades happen when you have, so many players going out, like 6-7 players going out. So that's the tough thing. Like, maybe you can get there. For Paul George, they're probably asking for Anthony Simons. I mean, I would like to keep Anthony Simons because Paul George, I feel like, is more the Donovan Mitchell tier, right? Mm-hmm. Where it's like Donovan Mitchell, they traded 4 first-round picks and basically nothing. What value did they give up? They gave up
Sexton, Markkanen.
Oh, I guess Markkanen was included. So never.
I mean, Markkanen didn't have a ton of value at that trade. But he ended up being really good.
Yeah. But like, if you're trading picks and Sharp, that should be enough for Paul George. You should be able to keep Anthony Simons in that trade.
Yeah. So just so everyone's clear, you cannot call the Clippers and offer them Reddish in a sign and trade. And if you do a sign and trade, you have to sign them for 3 years. Also, the Clippers are in a situation where they are way over the tax. If you do a sign and trade, they would be hard capped, and they wouldn't even be able to do a sign and trade. So there's a lot of situations like that. Sign and trades only happen organically. Either if a team wants to sign someone and they call the team because they don't have cap space, or they it just so happened a couple years ago where a team the Brooklyn Nets wanted to sign Kevin Durant, and the Warriors were like, oh, we don't want to lose Durant for nothing, so let's sign D'Angelo Russell and ask them if we can do a sign and trade and do it that way. So that's the kind of moves that sign and trades happen for. You can't just call a team and be like, oh, we want Paul George, we'll sign and trade you Cam Reddish and Matisse Thybulle and Jeremy Grant and stuff like that. They have to actually go they actually have to go to another team, agree to basically sign without signing the contract. That team has to not have the cap space to do a sign and trade or do us a favor for no reason. And it's just like, I don't know. It's just really dumb to think that sign and trading a player before free agency even started is going to be a realistic option.
Yeah, you can't plan on that in order to bridge a gap. It's if that happens, then okay, cool. It makes things maybe a little bit easier, but you can't plan on it. Is how I'd view it. There's a comment regarding the type of conversation we're having that says, please, more reasonable names. We're talking about all-in moves, right? Maybe one doesn't become available, but that's the thing, is like this team at some point has to make some sort of all-in move, or they're going to have to get completely lucky and get Victor Wembanyama in order to contend with Dame. So,
or,
yes,
it's like a Kawhi Giannis type situation where you draft Rudy Gobert, where you draft someone later in the draft.
Even those guys weren't that great until, 3-4 years in.
I mean, Kawhi was pretty good right away.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, but when did he become a star top 20 player?
I mean, star top 20 player was a few years in, but
yeah. Also, he was in the best situation to develop, I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so, of course.
Do we develop the next Kawhi like the next Kawhi, So that's kind of the problem. I'm not too confident that we get, a guy who ends up being a MVP candidate later in the draft, but if that happens, cool. With that Knicks pick, if we got a guy like that, awesome. Yeah, obviously that would change things. But that's the thing is, like, nothing that gets the Blazers to contention in itself is going to be super realistic. Obviously, it's really, really tough. This organization has failed for multiple years. So if we're having a conversation about an all-in move, we're talking about names that, like, obviously are big names that might not be available or are going to be hard to get. We know that. We can talk about realistic names all day. We can talk about the next Kevin Knox or Cam Reddish all day. Those guys. There's always a bunch of those guys available every single year. That's the problem, is those are the guys we go after. So at some point, this team has to make an all-in move. Or Victor Wembanyama is an all-in move.
Like, honestly, you put, like, these guys were both, one of them was the 10th pick, one of them was the 20th pick. You put either of them at small forward on our team, and I think we are, I mean, I don't know if we're contending with, like, Phoenix right now because they have KD and Booker and Paul and stuff, but, like, if you got the next Mikal Bridges or the next OG in this draft, and you have two picks around the same range where both of those went right now, if you happen to get like two of those guys, like, those guys are good enough in their roles to where we don't need scoring necessarily. So if they can knock down threes at like a 40% clip, or if they're like an elite defender, and like one-on-one defender or perimeter defender, that can totally change this franchise, and that's all we need. And unfortunately, like, Cam Reddish isn't that guy. But, like, if you do find, like, just imagine the difference between Cam Reddish and, like, Mikal Bridges right now at small forward. Like, we'd have, like, an actual person who understands his role, is competent on defense. We don't have to worry about him developing. He's already developed, can knock down threes at a good clip if he's open. So, yeah, that's the kind of thing we need to find. And those players are available in the draft. You just got to find them. But, like, I don't know if that necessarily makes us a contender, but that's, to me, like, what we're missing in order to prove that we're not just, like, a middling team, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but also here's the thing. Donovan Mitchell getting traded from Utah was unrealistic until it wasn't. Mm-hmm. Rudy Gobert getting traded wasn't realistic until it was. Like, yeah. I mean, well, these guys are pipe dreams until they get traded, and then they get traded.
Mitchell was realistic once the Gobert thing happened.
Yeah, but like, the trade this time last year, people were thinking they were going to keep running it back with them, and maybe they should trade him, maybe this or that. But that's the thing, is these guys aren't considered like realistically available until they are. So that's the thing, is as an organization, what you have to do is just accumulate assets to put yourself in a position to make a trade for that player. And that's the problem with that's where everything starts with Joe Cronin era with the botched Clippers trade where he didn't get assets back for Norman Powell and Robert Covington. Because getting a future pick for one of those guys makes it a little bit easier when that star becomes available to make that move for whoever that star is, if they're the right fit. So you just have to position yourself for the potential that a big name player becomes available that would take this team to the next level so that you can be ready to make that splash. And who knows who it would be? It could be this guy or that guy, and any one specific guy isn't necessarily realistic, but at some point there's going to be a star that gets traded. It happens. It happened last year. It's going to happen in the next couple of years. If that star can help Portland, they have to be ready to make a play for it, is the entire point of the conversation. Mm-hmm. They have to have the contracts that match and the asset value. And they have to have an owner that's willing to do it and a GM that knows how to pull it off.
Mm-hmm. Karl Anthony Towns is a name that could become available, but I mean, he's a horrible defender, so I don't like, are we just trying to outscore teams? Are we trying to improve our offense? Like, I think he's one of the worst fits defensively we could possibly go after.
That's why I don't hate the idea of Paul George if he becomes available. That's why I like the idea of Joel Embiid, because he's a really, really good defensive big man. Would be an upgrade there. So that's the thing. Is if it's a star that's good defensively, I like it. You know, Siakam is a guy I like because he's good defensively. Karl Anthony Towns, I'm not enamored with. Yeah, he'd be great offensively, but yeah.
See, I agree with DT1023. Best bet is to contend is to create a team that fits perfectly. Doesn't necessarily have to have a bunch of star power. Just needs 3-and-D wings and a defensive center, great depth. That's one of the problems too. I saw a comment earlier, like, isn't Nurkic the problem, missing so many games? Like, but we know he misses games sometimes. So, like, why do we not have a better center rotation? Why do we not have a good backup defensive center? Like, that's the kind of stuff we need to do. And unfortunately, we're just, until Cronin proves he can add those pieces. So far, he's failed miserably at putting like getting the right depth and the right, getting a defensive center that, if Nurk misses games, we have it. I mentioned this a couple weeks ago. It's been since that Ed Davis, Zach Collins backup center that we had legit defensive-minded centers behind Nurkic. And then we went out in the buyout market and got Canner, and he played well at the end of that season. But, like, we haven't really had a legit guy you can count on as backup center. And I think that is a thing you have to have. We talked about this all offseason. You have to do that if you have Nurkic as your center. I'm still fine with Nurkic as your center, but you need that defensive center to back him up that can start games and play major minutes if Nurk goes down.
Yeah, and then, like, this is another name that falls into the Karl Anthony Towns category. There was a comment that said Zach LaVine would be good at the 3 with Grant.
God.
And then there's another comment like they don't like LaVine. We don't like LaVine because he's a bad defender and he's undersized for the 3. Why would you run back the issue that we had with Norman Powell starting at the 3? Why would we do that over again? You know what I mean? Like, that was awful defensively. I don't know why we'd do that over again. It didn't work then. Why would you give up all the assets to get LaVine? Probably give up Ant in the process. So, like, I assume if you want to start LaVine at the 3, hypothetically, you want to have Ant at the 2. It just doesn't make sense. Like, you're going to go all in on a terrible defense. I don't like the thought of that. And if you're trading Ant for him, there's just no point. Because Ant is close enough to him that you're not fixing or solving anything. Plus, you're probably losing assets if you're trading Ant for LaVine because he's a bigger name.
That was my exact point earlier. It's like, it's like all these moves now. If you made a move like LaVine and you got a big name like that, you're basically just switching out Ant and Sharp or whoever it takes to get LaVine for LaVine, and then you have Dame and LaVine and Grant. We're not better than we are right now. Like, we're still a 500 team in that situation. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah. Where do you want to go with this conversation?
Trevin backs up my point saying Ed Davis and Zach Collins' year, we were sixth in defense, and that was with CJ and Dame as our starting
Were
front.
we sixth? I thought we were ninth.
I thought we were eighth, but yeah, somewhere in the we were
Somewhere
top 10
between
least,
between 6 and 9.
Yeah.
Um,
But yeah, so Chris Brandlin says we have to accrue assets, and that starts with a smart draft. So this is it. I don't want to do this. Like, this isn't what I want. But to me, you draft a couple players, you sign someone, hopefully for the tax MLE, so you aren't handicapped with that. But then you have, a $7 million contract. You have whatever draft picks you have, their contracts. You have Sharp's contract. You have Naz's contract. You have Nurk's contract. Then, there would be a way to possibly get enough pieces added up to where we could make an all-in move. But we'd also need, one of those draft picks to show value and promise. And if they do show value or promise, do we really, then maybe it's not even worth trading them or whatever. So I don't know. I still think the most likely outcome, no matter how slim all these outcomes are, they're all very slim possibilities of contending. I still think the best bet is just to continue to swing for the fences with drafts like the Sharp one, and just hope that one of them or two of them pan out, and that you get in their second or third year, you get like a Mikal Bridges Ayton type duo that can help Dame and Anthony and Jeremy get over the hump. I just think that's the best possible route and the most likely route to lead to that happening.
That's the fallback plan,
right.
To going all in, right? And that's the thing. You want to position yourself to go all in by having a couple picks in a draft. And then if a guy becomes available that can take your team to contention level, you make that move. If not, you use those picks and hope you hit on them, and then that can make your team potentially get to contention status just through using draft picks and internal growth. Plus, if you're drafting good prospects, then in the future, maybe it's the year after a guy becomes available, you have, a Shaedon Sharp that you can trade, and, whoever the Blazers draft this year, next offseason, then you're in position next offseason and in future offseasons. I mean, look at the Suns, right? Yeah. They internally developed with Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson,
and then those guys for Kevin Durant.
Yeah, Kevin Durant finally became available, and they were in position to trade for him. So, and they were already a contending level team with those guys. So that has to be the formula. And any moves that aren't clearly directed towards pursuing that formula are bad moves, in my opinion. Like the Josh Hart trade, I don't hate because we got that first round pick. I don't like Cam Reddish, but I'm not. I was on the Josh Hart trade because yes, we're losing talent now, but we're also getting a first round pick in a loaded draft, so it's kind of pursuing that formula in a way. Whereas the Matisse Thybulle trade, I don't feel like clearly fit that formula. That's why I wasn't super high on it.
Well, I mean, it was just getting someone for cheap that, it didn't put us under the tax, so we needed a defender after trading Gary Payton. So, I understand the Matisse trade. I'm sick of players that can only do one thing and suck at the other thing. But, yeah, the Thybulle thing wasn't that bad. But my problem is, I've heard that they passed up deals even with New York that included different players than Reddish just because they didn't want to have salary next year and are looking to, even if they re-sign Grant, stay under the tax.
Which is the Jody problem.
Which is basically like Isaiah Hartenstein or Obi Toppin or whoever was on the table possibly in that trade. If we purposely weren't even willing to take those guys because they had a contract next year, this is what I'm talking about, because then it sets us up to where we don't have those assets available to trade to go all in, and it's just frustrating that we could have gotten perhaps that first round pick on top of someone like Hartenstein, who would have been a capable backup center, and an expiring contract to trade, or like a James Wiseman, who you could have taken a flyer on just like Reddish and and Thibault and those guys, and you had his contract to trade next year to a crappy team that's looking to offset or offload a star.
That's exactly why that has to be the formula too. Is because the only way Jody goes into the tax is if it's an all-in move, and even then that isn't a sure thing that she would, right? Mm-hmm. But if you're getting Joel Embiid, ticket prices are going to go through the roof. This team probably going to contend. So she probably pays the tax for that. But on the fallback plan, you're getting potentially guys that can help you on the cheap on rookie contracts that can be rotation players for, $5 million, $6 million, $7 million a year, which can potentially build up a team that's competitive that isn't high salary, so she's ducking the tax. That's why I think it's that path or an all-in move.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is, too, if she's already setting up next year and that's like restricting Cronin, she doesn't even trust him to make that all-in move. So that's the problem, too. Like, because Cronin, if he's explaining this to her and she's not even letting him, because, like, he's been able to duck the tax the last two trade deadlines, right? Like, he got significantly under this year, almost over $6 million under. Last year, what did we end up, like $9 million under the tax or something like that? If not more, I think. It got like way under the tax last year. So he's shown the ability to be able to do that, but you're not trusting him to possibly go in the tax but get out of it by the time you need him to be out of it. And that's where I'm worried, is like, if she doesn't even trust him to do that, like, this probably going to make it very difficult, like I said, unless the perfect trade comes along that just happens to be the right player on the right contract. Like, I don't think Mikal Bridges is going to get traded, but like, his $20 million contract would be a lot easier to match than Paul George's, right? So, like, if that kind of trade came available, then maybe, but like, I just don't see how we can work an all-in move if we're under all these other restrictions in other trades and not setting ourselves up for the best possible option to make that all-in move.
Yeah, I mean, the situation with Jody could be completely dire, but I mean, I don't want to see her every stream like,
right,
yeah, we're never going to do anything because Jody sucks. I'll analyze it as if she'll go all in for a tax move, but I'll always put that caveat out there that she might not. We're already back at it with the shitty trade Dame ideas. We got one that says Dame for Tyler Hero and Kyle Lowry. Get out of here with your crappy
Heat fan.
Yeah, with your crappy Dame trade ideas. Nobody's trading Dame for no Tyler Hero and Kyle Lowry, bro.
That was a freaking fanspo. They always post like the worst freaking trades on Twitter.
We weren't even getting Tyler Hero in that trade. We're getting Duncan Robinson.
Yeah, it was Duncan Robinson and like 3 firsts that they can't even trade or something like that.
Yeah. Or Brandon Ingram and Jackson Hayes for Dame was the other. Man, stop. Can we not, just for the rest of the year, maybe this offseason, you guys can have fun trying to trigger us with your bad Dame trade ideas. But right now, I'm trying to relax because the trade deadline's over. All right. Maybe we can take a break because we still are going to see it on social media, Eric. Mm-hmm. I love Fanspo as a website, but some of their trade ideas, it's just like, man, I know
they're just trying to
promote their service, but
well, I mean, to be honest, like pretty much any media that posts trade ideas is kind of laughable at times.
Yeah,
there's not many like, even nationally, there's not many places that, you look at the Bleacher Report trades or even
because you want to know why
City Project and like that kind of stuff.
You want to know why? It's because all their trade ideas are about making like this good player play here,
right?
And it's like, okay, well, let's just make a trade where Dame ends up in Miami, and then 3 firsts and 2 bad contracts, that matches, that works. Okay. Let's put this forward out as clickbait, right? Whereas when I try and come up with trade ideas, I truly try and come up with deals that I think are solid or potentially solid for both teams, which is very hard. If it wasn't so hard, maybe more media would do it. But I always go into it like, okay, how can I make something that makes sense for both teams? Whereas all the national media, it's always about getting a big name to a specific spot with their trade ideas.
Yep.
That's what gets the clicks. I mean, it's a good business strategy. I can't blame them.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, and then if you post like actual decent trades, like your Embiid trade,
yeah.
I mean, you can argue whether Sharp should have been involved in that or not, but like it wasn't that bad. If they are trading, if they are trading Embiid, it's going to be hard to find a better package than that, unless a team just goes insanely crazy like OKC. But I don't see them doing that. Like why do they want Embiid?
Yeah. And I'm not going to lie, I've done that a little bit in the past.
Right.
Like this past offseason when Dame posted that Krish edit of him and KD standing next to each other in Blazers jerseys, I immediately made a video with the thumbnail tag saying KD to Portland ? And the title was Kevin Durant to the Portland Trailblazers, Damian Lillard wants Durant in Portland. It got 11K views. Yeah. So, it was based around, I wasn't going to make a video like that unless there was something to go off of, and then Dame posted that tweet, and then Yusuf Nurkic posted it with the puzzle piece. Like, some people were talking about it, but I get it. I get it, I've done it a little bit in the past, but I think I said it wasn't realistic in the video, though. I'm not sitting here like, maybe we could trade 2 second-round picks for him.
I mean, that's different than like people saying, "Oh, here's a legit trade idea."
Yeah, exactly. So normally I don't try and trick people into thinking something's realistic. I mean, I sit here and I'm the negative guy because I try and be realistic on things. I could sit here, guys, Cam Reddish, he's gonna be phenomenal. Just wait. This is part of the master plan. But it's just like, at some point, if I keep saying that and it's not the truth and it doesn't pan out, how are people going to take me seriously?
Yeah.
So that's why I just try and call it like it is, because I feel like people can take me seriously if I just try and call it like I see it and I try and come up with reasons for it. Mm-hmm. It's always been what we've been about.
Yeah. Man, remember after the Lakers game when everyone was like, "See, you idiots, you were wrong about the trade. The trade deadline was awesome. Look at this. Look at how good everyone is."
There's always that one game with like a free agent signing, like Nick Stauskas. It was his first game. He had 24 against the Lakers, and people were saying to me, "See, told you Nick Stauskas was gonna end up being a good player once he ended up in Portland, and then he sucked the rest of the year." Mario Hezonja, when we signed him, was really good in preseason. You remember that? Or maybe he wasn't really good, but I remember that preseason. People were like, see, he's going to look really good in Stotts' offensive system.
No, they were saying they were going to like use him a certain way that was going to be like that. And then,
Yeah, like after preseason, though, people were telling him, like, see, you were wrong about Hezonja. Look at what he did this preseason, or look how he was used this preseason, or something like that. And then he was awful. Like, there's always that moment with guys where... I mean, it happened with the 4-game winning streak last year. People were saying about Justice Winslow to me.
Yeah. Well, they were saying that earlier this year, too.
Yeah, when we started 4-0. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I actually was like, okay, maybe I'll buy the hype a little bit. Whoops. So, those moments always happen. And it's always funny. Because I sit there in those moments like, yeah, here it is. This moment is here. And then we'll see what happens after this.
Adam, I know you said you came late, but we talked about it for like a half an hour earlier in the stream, so go watch later. But
okay, this drives me crazy. If I talk about guys that we sign like with the idea that we could fix them and make them pan out, and Mario was obviously that one of those guys, and Reddish is one of those guys, I'm not saying they're equal. I'm not saying they're the same player. I'm not saying that Mario's as good as Reddish is. Yeah, because people
Reddish is as bad as
yeah, like I say that and people are like, oh, you think they're the same player? Or, oh, you're comparing their games? No, I'm comparing the fact that they were top 10 lottery picks that this organization brought in thinking that they could fix. That doesn't mean that they're necessarily equal. Like, you know what I mean? Obviously, Mario's not in the league, and Nick Stauskas is in the league, and Cam Reddish is. Obviously, he's better than both those guys right now. The fact that I have to say that is kind of ridiculous. Come on. You don't make random equivalents that aren't there.
So, my whole point was, Sunday, we're playing the Houston Rockets, right? I think we're playing the Houston Rockets. Is that who we're playing Sunday?
Yeah, let me check the Discord schedule, which was glitching for me the other day. It's still glitching for me. Yes, it's Houston.
Yeah, so...
Dame's probably going to play. Grant's probably going to play.
Grant's going to play. Nurk might be back. Cam Reddish and Thibault are gonna hit like 7 of 10 threes, and we're gonna win by 20. But don't come in here and say that makes that means that they're like we're like a contender and we found this, like, let's just re-sign those guys in the offseason and everything will be great. Like there's I said this at the trade deadline. I said it after the good game from Reddish. I said it after the second game where he played bad. It's like, I'm not going to get too high or too low with any of these games. I'm going to evaluate how their whole career has been, and then how if they improve at all, some of these things from here on out. So that's what I want to see. Like let's just not come in here and overreact about Sunday when we win by 20.
Yeah,
because they're tanking worse than us. It's not like we're going to be better than them. We're just not fully committed to the tank like they are right now.
Yeah. Dude, yeah. Everything's so, like, in the moment, man. Even, like, there's people responding to my Cam Reddish criticisms just of his game today, that tweet that I had today. And they're like, dude, he's only played 4 games or 5 games. Like, he's barely played. You're not even getting him a chance. It's like, it's not just based on what he's done in a Blazer uniform. Like, that's the thing, is I pay attention to other teams. Maybe there's just too many Blazer fans out there that only pay attention to the Blazers, I guess. And it's like, to them, he's only played 5 games, but he's played more games than that in his career to base that off of. By the way, shout out to a donation bomb without a message, Eric. Pim Araz. Do I say his last name right? Pim. I don't know. I try. Guys, if I butcher your last name, at least know that I'm giving maximum effort on pronouncing it right.
I think he told us like several months ago what it was. I think it's a rose, yeah.
A rose? Okay. Sorry, I don't have a great memory. I do give max effort on pronouncing your names correctly, okay? So hopefully that matters to you.
Pim, if there was a message, let me know. He says, show me your Blazer.
Yeah.
Is Pim secretly Chad doing?
That would be amazing. That would be amazing. I wish, Yeah.
Zach says Pim wanted to ask Tori if he thinks he could beat Ryan architectural structure in a 1v1.
Oh, man. So our moderators have been coming up with different... It's mostly Connor and Smog was in on it. Coming up with different last names for Ryan Archipelago, It just starts with A and has like 5 syllables. So that's kind of the thing right now. Max Anderson says someone donate $100 to shave Tori's beard. I mean, I don't think I want to shave. I think
do we want to shave? Don't we want him to not shave now?
Yeah, and I mean, they kind of beat the whole... I had a beard when they beat the Lakers by 20 at home, so I think the beard thing being relevant to this Blazer team is out the window now. I think I solved that.
Chris Brandlin says that show me thing comes from Jim Rome. Yeah, we know Chad was...
Chad loved that, though.
It was a short amount of time, but Chad in Portland, he was regular on Rome, and then so that's where he gets a lot of his stuff from.
Yeah. Alan G says, F no, it's not the beard, it's the hair. Damn, why so aggressive?
Dang, dude.
Yeah, Pib, if there is a message it to Eric. We'll read off whatever you want us to say, short of stuff that would get us canceled or curse words. So message that to Eric, because thank you for the $50 dono. Appreciate that, man. That's huge. Thank you.
Tyler says, why did you bring up the Jenner curse a few weeks ago? Because there was a rumor that Kendall was dating a Blazer secretly, and then they called it off, and now she's dating Bad Bunny, so I don't know.
Yeah. Wait, she's not dating Jeremy Grant?
Not anymore. Whoever it was, they're not together anymore because she's with Bad Bunny.
Man, Jeremy Grant was too low-key for her. She had to go for Bad Bunny.
Yeah.
That's a good thing for us, though. Jeremy's going to come back and average 30 a game for like the next 5 games. But that's a bad thing for us. So, wait, maybe we want... Dang it. I think I wanted them to date. Because don't we want to tank? Because she could have helped the tank, Eric. She could have been the tank commander.
Chiefin says, am I allowed to talk in this chat? No.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Why Yeah, you're obviously talking,
He
so
just
we shadow banned you, but you can still see her.
that was one of those. Please read off my name in chat. It's all the people that come in here and say lag and are hoping we're like, oh, we're lagging. Anyway, yeah, Kendall Jenner could have been the tank commander. I'm kind of sad.
Aeromancer. You have a lot of jokes that miss Aeromancer, but sometimes you hit. Kendall Jenner is better. Kendall Jenner is a better rebounder than Jeremy Grant.
That's
rebounding meaning. Yeah.
I love the joke. I love the joke. Chiefin says, no, I've been saying stuff for weeks y'all ignore. Bro, you're not in here often, and we got a lot of people in here. We get like 20 messages a minute. You think, man.
And you're very
trolly.
Yeah, you do say a lot of stuff that we don't want to talk about on here either, so yeah.
Yeah, if we don't respond...
Chris says, pay attention to me!
If we don't respond to your chat messages, that doesn't mean they're bad or that it's personal or that it's this or that is that. You guys talk amongst each other, too. It's not just us. You guys can argue with each other, cuss each other out, although I think cuss words get hidden. Like, be respectful. We have chat rules, but you guys can talk to each other, too. You guys do it all the time, It doesn't mean you're not allowed to talk because we don't read off all your comments on here. It just doesn't make sense.
Chiefin, what are you talking about? What, like, you've barely been in here. You've barely said anything in chat. Like, you've definitely not said anything worth talking about. I don't know.
The worst thing you can do is come in here complaining about how we don't talk about your comments. That's the worst thing you can do.
And quite frankly, you were an absolute... jerk to us about a year ago too, so that kind of ruined things when we used to interact with you all the time. So
honestly, I remember there being something like that, but I don't even remember the specifics. Like, I don't even care, you know what I mean? Whatever, Anyway, there, we gave you your attention. Congrats.
But Chiefin, come in here and talk. I'm not ignoring you on purpose, man. I haven't seen you talk that much to ignore you.
Bread says trade Chief and rebuild around Beefus. Oh man, that's funny. That's funny.
We'll squash it on the basketball court if you ever show up, Chief.
Yeah, so basically Chiefin always says he's gonna play Eric 1v1 and beat him, and then he never shows up. Is basically the running narrative right now, which is a true narrative, by the way, but
he also said he would dominate you.
He also said he would dominate me, and, but he won't even play you, so... So I don't know, man. I think he's just running from the grind of trying to play me one-on-one.
Yeah.
Which is embarrassing.
Trevin says Chiefin in his Austin whack area.
Hey, Austin's cool now. Austin had a moment he hated us. Now I think we're cool. Hopefully he doesn't hate us still. Yeah, if we don't, we try and respond, man. I don't know.
No one's saying you should be scared of us.
I think you're scared of me. It's okay. Are you ready for a tank season, which means more of conversations like this?
Yeah, sure.
Chat, are you guys ready for just absolute off-the-wall conversations when we tank?
Let's do tankathon then.
Yeah, well, let me just say this, all right? Snow tank, that phrase is for a semi-tank, all right?
Mm-hmm.
Because this team would have had to play Dame or Grant, but they hadn't. Yeah, it's soft and fluffy. They had the perfect excuse to sit them, or maybe it was the worst excuse to sit them, which was obviously the snow and the travel. So full out tanking is tanking, okay? Snow tank is we're gonna try and tank low key. I think the team's in snow tank mode. I need to get somebody in our Discord named Philosopher Nas posted a GIF of a tank drifting through snow. And I think that might need to be our new intro animation. I had the roller coaster that one day. I need to add the tank drifting through the snow.
Yeah.
Are we thinking if Dame and Grant sit next game? I mean, yes.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, like yes, absolutely, but they're not sitting.
They're not sitting next game, no.
If they are, you can come in here and scream at us that we're wrong, and we'll say you're right, we were wrong. Okay, Rip City.
Almac asked, would Torrey beat Mike Richmond 1-on-1? Dude, like, come on, Almac. Like, Torrey's a legit basketball player. He's really good. Yes, he would beat. I would put Torrey up against. I mean, maybe I don't know how much Lamar Hurd plays nowadays. Like, other than him, I'd put Torrey up against anyone. Like,
yeah, Lamar Hurd was Oregon State D1, so
yeah.
What is that called? I mean, we can hopefully they play in media bracket if there's Rip City 3-on-3 this year, and we can play them, and we can see about that.
Don't know what that means, Zach.
Torrey versus Travis Demers. Torrey versus Danny Meringue. Are you guys just hoping for some off-season content?
Come on, guys.
I play every media member 1v1. That's our off-season series. In reality, it's going to be a 30-second video where I send them a couple DMs or emails and they don't reply. Yeah, it's the equivalent of the YouTube boxing, Eric. Anyway, Tankathon. You said you wanted Tankathon. I will bring you the Tankathon. When I figure out which one of my many sources I need to put the Tankathon on, because I have way too many things. Why do I have two sources called Picks Against the Spread standings on the post-game show layout? Oh, it's such a mess. I need to clean it up. I guess we could put it on the Fanspo one. Yeah, the Fanspo one is the one I'm gonna do. Tankathon.com.
Sorry to hear about your loss, Chiefin, but cool that you got to go to the game tonight.
Yep. Okay. Tankathon. Where is it?
Someone asked if I was. Oh, Tyler asked if I was at OSU in the Brandon Browner era. What was that? Was he there in 2003? That was my last year at Oregon State. So, or no, 2003 season would have been after I left. So because I left spring of 2003. So, yeah, I might have just missed Brandon Browner when he actually played.
Dude, what is? Wait, okay, this one's titled Tankathon. Okay, there we go. Why is it? Oh wait, hold on.
Crypto, I think you mean Ready or Not.
Ready or Not.
The Hassan White.
Yep. All right, let me rearrange this so that it's like that. I guess. Actually, let me.
Yeah, Dolan, I was there for the Fiesta season, went to the Fiesta Bowl, road tripped with a bunch of friends. That was freaking awesome.
All three of these ads are Adobe. You guys can see how much I search up like Photoshop tips and whatnot. The ads are thinking I need to be promoted more Adobe products. Blazers moving up from 10 to 9. Eric, let's go.
Nice, let's go. What percentage is that for number one?
4.5% chance at Wemby.
Let's go.
Yep.
I'll take it.
Yep. If we won this game, we would have had like a 2% chance, so we more than doubled our odds, because, yeah, it would have been... OKC and Washington are tied for 10th, so they're even at 2.5, so we would be 11th. So that's like 2%. Yeah, that's 2%, because we'd be 29 and... Yeah, so Toronto won, and they passed us. OKC lost to Utah.
Still a half game ahead.
Yeah, and then the Lakers...
They beat us all 3 games.
Are only a half game behind us. We could get up to 8th.
I think the Lakers play tomorrow or the next day, so
We're
by
rooting for the
Sunday.
Lakers. We're rooting for the Bulls, and we're rooting for the Pacers. The Pacers lost an OT to the Celtics. At least I want my double down on them, but that would have been nice for the Pacers to win. I mean, we would literally only be 2 games out of 6th, Eric.
Mm-hmm.
Which just seemed like such a struggle to get to 6th last year, and it's like we could just be like 2 games out if the Pacers won in overtime today. So
Yeah.
if we tanked as well as last year, we could have gotten. I think we would get to 5th. Because we had 27 wins last year. 5th best odds already has 25 wins.
Mm-hmm.
So we tanked the wrong year. Whoops. Anyway, time to simulate this thing as we always do. Can't believe we're back to this. And then we'll scroll up. 14 is Utah, 13 Golden State, 12 is Washington, which means Toronto jumps into the top 4, which obviously would be bad news for the Blazers. 11 OKC. 10 is the Pelicans, which means the Blazers jump into the top 4.
Wow.
Blazers are top 4 with the Raptors. So now the Raptors being in is good because they have even less odds at the number 1 overall pick. Orlando via Chicago, Indiana, Orlando via Orlando, 7th and 9th picks. San Antonio falls 4 spots. And then you got Houston 5, Detroit at 4. All right, so top 3 is Toronto. Who is it? Toronto, Portland, and who's the other team? I need to memorize my tanking teams. Because who are the 4 bad ones? It's Detroit, Houston, San Antonio, and Charlotte.
Charlotte.
So it's Charlotte, Portland, or Toronto. All right. Let's see who's at 3. Let me make sure I scroll this slowly. Oh, it's your Portland Trailblazers. Rip. 2 is Charlotte, and 1, the Toronto Raptors get Wembanyama.
Oh, great.
So them winning tonight was bad. We would have had the number. No, they were 12th. I don't know. That's crazy. Imagine Toronto with Wemby. The 6'9" experiment bumps up to 7'4". Dude, that would be insane if they had him. I think you still go with the Ford experiment if you had him.
He's literally perfect for them, yeah.
Just to have the biggest basketball team ever that's skilled enough.
He might be their best shooter next year.
Yeah. I mean, if Portland ended up here, what would your game plan be?
I think you hope you get a phone call from Orlando saying number 7 and Franz Wagner for 3. Like that type of trade.
I feel like they wouldn't give up Franz for 3, though.
I know. I'm just saying.
I feel 7 and 9 for 3.
Yeah, maybe.
And then you trade 9 for OG.
Well,
9 wouldn't be enough for OG.
They wouldn't trade 7 for OG last year.
Yeah. Crap.
Well, you could give them Wembanyama and Amen.
I mean, here's the thing. If, like, Harden was going to leave and Joel Embiid became available, I mean, if you had 3 and 22 and 3 future firsts plus Ant and Nurkic, maybe that would be enough. And you could keep Sharp. That'd have to be your hope. Because that's pretty dang good. That's... Would 322, 3 future firsts unprotected, Anthony Simons and Yusuf Nurkic be better than what the Nets got for KD? Considering it could be 4 late firsts and McHale and Cam Johnson?
It's hard to tell right now considering where those picks would be, but I mean the number 3 pick alone you'd think is worth more than anything they got. So yeah.
Yeah. Plus Simons would be really, really good as the lead guard. Maxey and Simons would be a top 5 or 6 backcourt for years to come. And the third, that would be a really good start to kind of retooling there in Philadelphia. I mean, this is what you'd have to hope for. It's funny because we talked about like, oh, what if the Blazers ended up with in the final 3 and we're sitting there on the draft lottery stream like, oh my goodness, we might get Wemby, and then they come in 3rd and it's like, it's still good. We jumped into the top 3, but getting that close to Wemby and missing out on him would be devastating.
No, Vedron, I do not think he was sat out for fear that he would go off. I think they just, for some reason, don't think he deserves to play more.
Yep. 42 Tribe says if Portland ends up in the middle of the lotto, I want Anthony Black, a 6'7" point guard / small forward who enjoys defense, move Lillard and Ant off ball. Yeah, he'd kind of be like Josh Hart type of guy there because his 3-point shot isn't the best. You'd have to hope that he could figure out how to knock down threes.
Horrible shooter. Yeah, I don't want a non-shooter guard. I just that's completely
too many non-shooters.
Opposite thing I want. Yeah,
he's one of those guys. Yeah, he's one of those guys. There's always guys like this in every draft where it's like, oh, if he could just figure out how to shoot.
Yeah.
And sometimes there are guys who figure out how to shoot, you know? I mean, his projected 3-point percentage is 33.4%, Eric. Mm-hmm. He's 32% this year, 71% from the free throw line. So
that's not good for a point guard.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you could see a jump. It's freshman. You know, a lot of freshmen have struggled shooting, but yeah.
I mean, yeah. I don't think you'd start him, though.
Yeah.
And task him with being, like, one of the main facilitators in a starting lineup. I don't think he'd be ready for that. Upside piece, though, for sure. I want Jarris Walker. If
there's just so
range.
many. Yeah, there's so many other players that could help us right now where you don't have to do that.
The thing is, I feel like Jarris Walker's going top 6 or 7. I don't think we're gonna end up top 6 or 7 unless we move up anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's going to be hard for us to land him. Because if you're at 3 or 4, you probably go somewhere else. I don't know with what. But
John,
one of the top
John Nash, Zach Eddy's at best like a mid-second round pick. So we have, I think as of right now, the 44th pick in the Gary Payton trade. So
I wouldn't touch him.
No, I wouldn't either. I'm just saying, like,
yeah.
there's no way he's going in lottery. So
I mean, why wouldn't you just go get Boban instead?
Yeah.
You know, because that's basically who he's going to be is the next Boban. I mean, maybe if you got the first pick and got Victor Wembanyama, you could just say screw it, let's get 2 7-4 guys. I'm not a fan of Edey though.
Nick, let me ask you a question. You say we suck with Ant based on a half a season of him playing with Dame. Do you think having a legit small forward and actual front court players that are bigger than 6'9", other than Nurk, would possibly counteract that?
Yeah.
Or you're just willing to give it up without actually seeing if they could do it with legit players?
Yeah. I mean, if we're able to have a top 10 defense with Dame and CJ, shouldn't a top 10 defense with Dame and Ant be at least possible with the right pieces? And if you get a top 10 defense, I mean, you should be able to to contend because they're automatically a top 10 offense together. Any Herb Joneses? Maybe Kevin McCullough. But he has not shot the ball well this year. So he's probably a worse shooter than Herb Jones and not as big.
Mm-hmm.
Is Kaluma looked at as a good defender?
Who?
Arthur Kaluma, Creighton.
I believe he is, yeah.
Yeah, so obviously you need to do some more research on these guys. Doesn't average high steal or block numbers, but that, of course, isn't indicative of defense. He's always seemed like kind of a rangy, lengthy, agile forward, so I obviously have to watch him more. But Creighton's going to be a team to watch in March Madness anyway. They got Kalkbrenner, who could get drafted.
AJ Poseidon says, any good center prospects late first, early second? You already know my answer to that, AJ. Come on.
He does? I don't even know your answer to this.
I mean, I told you earlier, too.
Oh, I mean, you told me... Did you? Am I forgetting? Am I blinking?
Dayron Holmes is the guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I was just on Tankathon looking at centers, and he's listed as a power forward. But, yeah, you like Dayron Holmes.
I mean, he's like the next... like late first, early second center that becomes like a serviceable player like Claxton, Gafford type. So yeah.
Has so
I
so
was
has
talking about that dude
Lively's
last night, AJ. Come on, you were on Discord, right? Were we talking about that?
yeah, I don't know. Has Lively's improvement like intrigued
I
you?
don't see Lively and I'll put Khalil Ware in the same thing. Um, to me, those guys, I want to see their measurements because they just they look like centers trapped in power forward bodies, but not good enough to play either position. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like
But it's just about like can they be a Robert
right,
Williams, Nick Claxton defender?
yeah,
Because like both those guys kind of look like power forward trapped in center bodies,
hmm
but their athleticism, agility, ability to cover
uh,
ground made them elite defensively at the center
yeah.
spot.
I don't know. I think both Robert Williams and Claxton look bigger to me. Bam, I guess not, but he's also a lot stronger than those guys. So, um, yeah, I don't know. I feel like if they're power forward size, that kind of negates their quickness and ability to guard the perimeter. Um, if they're center size and they're able to do that and put on some strength, I do think they would look nice. But yeah, I'm not too high on either of those guys in terms of helping a team anytime soon.
Isn't isn't Robert Williams like 6'8"?
I'm just saying, like he plays bigger than that, like
Yeah.
Lively and Ware to me play more like guards, like or small forwards, like they play like they're not tall, kind of, but to me that yeah, that's why I'm interested to see their measurements. But
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, part of that is they're freshmen and they need to build strength and stuff. So
Yeah.
and bigs take a while, but
Yeah, for sure.
actually, this might sound funny, but like I've gotten every Oregon game I've watched, I've been like kind of impressed with Nafali Dante, and like I don't expect to be, but like he got kind of zapped with the injuries and stuff, but at one point he was like a
He was really
projected lottery pick and stuff, and like he had in a game earlier this year, he had a steal against Arizona where he picked off a pass like with pretty good athleticism and took it the length of the court and like posterized someone with a dunk, and um, I was like, okay, like maybe he's beginning to maybe
I think
research.
I saw the play you're talking about
Yeah.
too, yeah.
But like he looked amazing in that game and shut down Tubelis and Ballo and stuff from Arizona. But yeah, like I don't know, it's kind of scary with him because he's got a lot of injury concerns and stuff. And I'm not talking first round or anything, like that might be an undrafted guy you go for. But yeah, I've been more impressed with him than Ware in the games that I've been watching.
Yeah. Shout out Pim Arose with a $5 donut. Says thoughts on Bill Laimbeer, His Highness. I wasn't around for Bill Laimbeer, so this is an Eric question.
His heinous.
His Highness.
His
heinous. Is it heinous? Highness? I don't know. What does His Heinous mean?
Bill Laimbeer was a good player. I mean, like, yeah, he was a little dirty, but I mean, he was competitive, scrappy, did things to win. But he was kind of like a stretch big, too. He shot threes and stuff. But yeah, I mean, he was a really good player. I don't know if there was something specific about him that happened. I'm not aware of anything that happened with him recently that would have been reason to bring him up. But yeah.
Yeah, that was random. I'm trying to order DoorDash currently. Not even gonna lie.
I know what heinous means, Arrowmancer.
Heinous means evil or despicable. I've always heard like His Highness, like royalty. So His Heinous, I've never heard before.
Okay, AJ, sorry. But yeah, I did watch several Holmes games yesterday and this morning, and yeah, I mean, I wouldn't take him in like the lottery or anything, but I think late first, early second, I think he's definitely a center that could come in and play a defensive role right away, be kind of switchable, and then is really good at finishing around the basket and stuff. Form on his shot doesn't look too bad. But yeah.
Yeah, you've been on the grind with watching college basketball, and I have not been.
Yeah. Yeah. I love Taylor Hendricks right now, man. That's my guy.
Yeah.
Brandon Miller was my guy, but
yeah.
We haven't really talked about that yet. But
we said we were going to talk about it tonight. Maybe we should just save it for the next post-game stream.
Yeah.
Because we're 2 hours in, and my throat's a little sore, so, I'm not conditioned off of that layoff, a week layoff. It's just, I'm not in game shape right now. So, stretched it out 2 hours as best I could, and we'll get back to it, but as far as draft content goes, I do want to do draft profiles and stuff, but I want to do them on NBA Uprise this offseason. So if you're not subscribed to NBA Uprise, there's a link in the description box below. We're like 41 away from 1,000 subs, and there's definitely 41 people watching right now that aren't subscribed. So if they just all went and, subbed, then we'd be at 1,000. So that would be cool, and would be greatly appreciated. It would mean a lot to us. That means we can monetize that channel. So that'd be cool. We got some fun things planned that I was working on a little bit over the All-Star break. We'll have more information in the future on that. And I do want to do some video stuff on that channel. I was just enjoying the break and trying not to push myself to do too much because I kind of needed it mentally. So anyway, any final words for this post-game show, Eric?
Thank you everyone for watching, even though these could get ugly in the last few games. Hopefully we're, having some good moments too the rest of the way. But appreciate everyone for tuning in, and thank you to Pim and what was the other guy's name?
Pim and Slick Mode.
Slick Mode.
Donos.
For donating tonight. Appreciate you guys. And thank you all for tuning in and just being a part of it and supporting the channel. Appreciate all of you, and hope to see you all on stream Sunday after the Rockets game.
Yep. Thank you to channel members. Thank you to our mods. We are out of here. This has been the Blazers Uprise post-game show presented by Bet Online. Until next time, as always, peace out. Go Blazers.